Now it's about to get very interesting. Hello guys, as I mentioned before in previous videos, I've been waiting for some of the more interesting parts come in, and they're now here. As you've probably just seen a couple of seconds ago at the start of the video, you know, some of the much more interesting parts we're going to start looking at now, so let's crack on. And here they are, and I've got to say, they really are a thing of beauty. They look absolutely amazing. I've been looking forward so much to these arriving. These have also came from Retro Ford. The issue hadn't been with Retro Ford regarding the delayed delivery. It was down to Omex basically getting orders out. I think probably with the ongoing current situation, that probably hasn't helped. So yeah, I've been waiting a fair few weeks for these, but Omex Retro Ford have been really good about it. They've kept me informed as much as they can. And they finally came yesterday. So I was really looking forward to getting home from work and getting these unboxed. And yeah, what a lovely kit. Even the throttle linkage is a work of art on its own. It looks absolutely fantastic. And there we can see. Absolutely beautiful. And I was going to run these with an air filter because I always think it's a good idea to run an air filter. But after speaking with Retro Ford and after looking at loads of other people's cars that have these throttle bodies, many people don't run an air filter. And I've always wanted to run a car with trumpets exposed like that. And I've never really had the opportunity. And I've decided now that due to the fact that I've got such little money in this engine, there's going to be very little lost if I run them and there's an issue. At the end of the day, the ST170s in Britain are kind of 10 a penny. You can get them for a couple of £100, no problem. I know it's a bit different in the likes of Australia. I know I've spoke to a lot of Australians through YouTube that have said they can't get hold of these engines for love nor money. But in Britain here, they're very readily available. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that. So it came with the fuel rail, Omex fuel rail, the 710 series ECU, and the wire and loom, the full wire and loom, which I'm going to wrap in the same wrap that you'll have seen in my other videos from the other loom. Now this has plugs for the 4 injectors, the VVT control, throttle position sensor, cam position sensor, crank sensor. It's got a plug for a single coil pack, air temperature sensor, and water temperature sensor. So basically, obviously many years ago we ran cars on distributors and carburetors, which were great in the day. They did the job. There was nothing wrong with them as such. But this system is just so much more refined. Now, my mate, I'll admit, my mate will tell you, I once said that I would never ever shy away from carbs and distributors. But when you start running these systems, as I have on the Mini, you start to realise just how refined and how amazing they are, how fantastic they are to set up. So the best way I can describe these systems and how they work is, imagine your body. Your body has senses everywhere. You know, you touch something really hot, that sends a signal to your brain to tell you that you're touching something really hot, and then your brain sends signals to your muscles to tell you to retract, move away. Well, basically that's all. This is exactly how this works. It has sensors everywhere, as I've just mentioned. So you've got your lambda sensor plug here. That goes into your exhaust and tells the system exactly how the fuel's burning. It's got water temperature sensor that tells the brain, or the ECU is the brain is basically, the ECU is basically like your brain. It tells it what temperature it's at, tells it what position the crank's in, what position the cam's in. It feeds all that information back to the brain, telling it all that information, and then the brain, that's basically got a map in it, it'll basically control how the engine fuels, you know, how and when it sparks per cylinder, and it's a very, very refined method of you know, engine management. It really is. It's fantastic, and the beauty of it is, you basically plug into the end of your ECU there, a cable in, and that goes into your PC or your laptop, which is generally done at a rolling road, but there's nothing stopping you doing it yourself, and you can change that map to get the fueling absolutely perfect, to get the ignition absolutely perfect. And yeah, it's a fantastic system. I mean, the 710 series ECU, this has got loads and loads of different features. A lot of them I will never ever use. You know, an example of some of them are, it's got launch control. I don't think I'll ever use launch control. It's got 0.5 megabyte of data logging. I don't think I'll ever use the data logging. It's got lambda support, as I've just mentioned. It'll do wideband or narrowband. This will be getting a wideband lambda sensor fitted into the exhaust. It's got NOx sensing capabilities, which I think is a great thing, because basically a NOx sensor attaches to somewhere onto your block, and that basically senses for any if the engine isn't quite running right and the engine's misfiring, etc., then the ECU will basically shut down your power so that you don't do any major damage. They're a great system. The ECU will also turn your fuel pump on, so basically you connect it up through your relay for your fuel pump. It'll prime your fuel pump when you turn the ignition on, and it'll also do the same for your cooling fan, so you can set in the parameters what temperature you want your cooling fan to come in as well, which I think is another thing I'm probably going to connect up as well, because I like the idea of that. Rather than using the temperature sensor of the water rail, let the ECU control it, why not? So yeah, absolute fantastic kit. Now, the actual fitting of this kit, no problem for myself. Running the cables in, mounting the ECU, mounting the throttle bodies and everything, that's all fantastic. That's brilliant. I enjoy all that side of things. But as I've mentioned in previous videos, IT is not my strong point. So when it comes to the mapping, that will be done by JDM Dyno, which is at Kirkbride, local to us, or fairly local to us. So as soon as I get the car on the road, I'll be taking it through to Kirkbride. This will be a future video as well, by the way, and we'll get it put on the rolling road and hopefully get somewhere near, or as close to as possible, 200 brake horsepower. I don't expect to get 200 brake horsepower. It's probably not going to happen, but if I get into the 190s, I'll certainly be happy with that. But yeah, that's a video that'll come at a later date. It also comes with fuel line, the data cable for connecting to your PC, throttle cable, most things you need. Probably the only things missing are the injectors and the lambda sensor and the coil pack. I need the coil pack and the bracket. The coil pack will mount underneath the throttle bodies, and then the cables will come up through here, through one of the gaps, and then into the side of the cam cover nice and neatly. I'll show you in a minute these throttle bodies just temporarily mounted on to show you just how they look, because it looks absolutely outstanding. Yeah, there is a lot of money's worth here. There's no getting away from that. It isn't a cheap system, but when you hear it running and when you realise what you can do with this system, like I say, I'm no expert in these systems. I only know what I've learned with the Mini and systems I've run in the past. But when you do run one of these modern systems, you really do appreciate just how amazing they are. You know, no need for a choke. The coolant temperature sensor tells the engine, or tells the ECU, what temperature the engine's at, and then that tells the engine to fuel accordingly. So obviously it'll inject more fuel when it's cold than when it's warm. And you can, like I say, you can change all the fueling and you can change all the ignition curve in the map. As it is now, it has a standard base map for an ST170. So I believe the map that's in that ECU right now is set up to basically run the ST170 as it would in the standard Focus. So it should run fairly well to start with. And obviously the other good thing about it is it does control the variable valve timing in the same way as the standard Focus would. So that's another fantastic thing about this kit. It's basically bespoke for the ST170. Now, the throttle bodies, they're made to suit the ST170 engine, obviously. They bolt right up to the head face. And the good thing about them is the angle of the throttle bodies are matched both in terms of dimensions, in terms of port size, and in terms of angle to the cylinder head. So basically the airflow is direct straight through the throttle body in the same angle, right through, no restrictions, right down to the back of your valves, all for increased performance. Now these are available in, I think it's 48mm and 45mm, something like that, if I remember rightly. And I've went for the 45 because the 48s are apparently for a really heavily modified version of the ST170, which this isn't. It's got all standard internals other than a light and flywheel and a couple of ARP bolts. Yeah, there's no major modifications to this engine, hence the reason why I've went for the 45mm throttle bodies. But let's get it mounted on the engine. I'll show you a bit of a footage of it mounted on the engine, and then you can appreciate just how amazing this really does look. Now, I think you'll agree, that looks absolutely amazing. I am so impressed with that. Really, really am. And you can see now it's in place. And it is only in place temporarily, as I've said, that the angle of the throttle bodies basically follow straight through into the head. So the angles of the ports in the cylinder head are at the same angle that these throttle bodies are pointing for, well, for obviously increased airflow. As you can just see on the end there, we've got the throttle position sensor incorporated into the throttle bodies as well. Really does look absolutely outstanding. I'm speechless about it. I really am, because I knew they were going to look good. I've seen them on other engines. I've seen them on Z-Techs at GS Escorts. The lads at GS Escorts fit these same throttle bodies to some of the Z-Techs they build, and I was really impressed with them on their builds, which is kind of pushed me to go for them myself. I really do think they look really, really good. So yeah, obviously I'm going to be fitting these properly. Obviously at the minute they're just screwed on temporarily. They don't actually have a gasket between the throttle body and the head either. There's basically a groove for an O-ring. So you basically put an O-ring on each port and then bolt it up, offer it up and bolt it up, and that's it. So yeah, obviously I'm going to be fitting these properly over the next coming couple of weeks. So carry on watching if you'd like to see obviously these fitted and some of the other parts I've just showed you, or will be showing you in the next video, sorry. And I think it's really going to come on shortly. It's really going to come together. Like I say, I do want to get it ready for the back end of summer if I can. I'm not going to rush it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I'm going to try my best to get some summer driving at the back end of this year, and maybe even the rolling road session done. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Like I say, if you want to see these parts being fitted and a bit more progress, carry on watching. Thanks very much for your views. Thanks very much for your amazing comments. And I'll see you very, very shortly on the next one, guys.